Before COVID slammed the brakes on everything, an increasing number of U.S. jazz musicians had been collaborating with their counterparts in Cuba, a somewhat lesser number in genres like son. But the ranks of non-Cuban Americans permitted to actually play with Cuba's top-tier timba bands has always been fairly thin. And we have one of them with us today, a trumpeter who lives in my home city, Chicago, Leon Allen. Leon, you're in Detroit at the moment, true?
Oh yeah, I'm Motor City Strong as we speak.
That's a lot
Mhm.
farther than I've been able to travel this year. My big trip was northern India.
Uh,
Well, no,
uh,
I was at Jazz Plaza in Nevada in January, but that was it. After that, lockdown.
I'm so sorry that I missed that event.
Yeah. Leon, tell us how you got into Cuban music in general and timba in particular.
Okay, well, it's an interesting story. So when I got out of high school, I ended up going to undergrad at Columbia College, Chicago. And while I was there, I met three people. First person who I met, his name was Angel Luis Badel, aka Angel de Cuba. So I met Angel de Cuba. He was hanging out with some of my friends out of one of my theory classes or something. And they decided to put a band together, and Angel de Cuba was coming to the school to rehearse with the guys from class. And so, he heard me play trumpet, and then, he threw some music in front of my face. I read it. Next thing you know, I'm in the band. And that band was kind of fun. And so I was in that band for about a year. And then all of a sudden, the school hired Chuchito Valdez, Chucho's son, to do a master class as a part of artist in residency. Okay. And during the week that he was there, I met a one of his friends who was playing bass with him. His name was Hector Civeda. And what ended up happening was is the master class was on a Monday. It was great. I had a gig that night at the Old Slicks Lounge. Went there, was playing. Next thing you know, Chuchito shows up with Hector. Chuchito sits in and literally destroys the piano with his bare hands. That's how strong he is. Like he destroys the keyboard. And so I guess everyone was on fire. And this guy Hector, who I was actually heard about, well, about 6 months before I met him. A lot of people in the scene was like, "Oh, this guy's here doing this, doing that." And I'm like, "Ah, okay, okay." Then I meet him, and then he says, "This is my number. I want you to call me. I want to see if you can play in my band." I was like, "Okay." I just figured it was a gig, so I called him the next day. I was like, "Let's go make some money." That Saturday, I was at the Old Rancho Luna on Peterson and Kimball with the fellas, and that happened 20 years ago. 20 years of my life passed, and that was my introduction to La Música Cubana.
Yeah, now, Angel de Cuba actually has an album out, Heritage, that's
Mhm,
a mixture of several different styles,
mhm,
and a lot of it
mhm.
is own compositions. When you mentioned Chuchito and the piano, almost every time he comes back to Chicago to perform, because he's been living in Cancun the last few years, but he comes
Mhm.
back and tours a lot, and every time he's back, usually somebody in the newspapers reminds of that piano.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So, what drew you down to Cuba? Well, let me rephrase my question. Because you've been playing with some of the top tier timba bands in Cuba, Manolito, Simonet, and Bamboleo. Was your first experience with that here in the States or down there?
Oh, well, my first experience playing with Manolito and Razo Valdez, this is Bamboleo, was actually in Cuba. I got invited by the government to attend a festival in Camagüey called La Semana de la Cultura Camagüeyana, the week of culture for the people of Camagüey. And
Mhm.
so I got invited to the festival. Manolito is the entertainment sponsor for that festival. So he found out. Next thing you know, he's sending his people to me when I get to Camagüey and saying, "Okay, you're gonna sit in with us. Uh, you're gonna sit in with us on this night, and his opening band, the name of the club was El Caribe. The opening band for Manolito that night was Cimafunk. And that was my first night playing with Cimafunk. So, um, so I did the Cimafunk thing. I showed up. Manolito heard of me. Next thing you know, he invites me on stage, and the rest is history. And that was in 2019. And the very next day, Manolito likes me so much. He says, "Yeah, you're playing in the big concert at the Pacadero Revolution, and you'll be with me, Bamboleo, and Havana de Primera." And when he said Hermanos Aviles, I thought he was lying. I was like, "You ain't going Hermanos Aviles." Yes, he did. And what the guy did was he put me and Lázaro Valdez and himself up. So it was like 2, 3 keyboards going on within the band, all the horns, all the percussion, everything was there. And then next thing you know, he put the microphone at the front of the stage, calls me up and tells me to play. And I guess Alexander was checking me out because then I hear him say, "Oh yeah, don't tell me trompeta ahora." So he's like, "Yo, give me." Oh yeah, dame trompeta. I see, that's all he was saying. Go get my trumpet. All of a sudden, I hear this dude blast in my ear, and it's Alexander Abreu, and that became like one of those historic battles that I'll never forget.
And later on, when Manolito came up here on tour, you had an opportunity to perform with him again in Chicago.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's getting pretty big for me, for Manolito and I, because I just got invited on the world tour next year. So actually, like playing in the band as a, I think he wants me to play lead. I'd rather play second, but whatever he needs, I'm gonna take care of him. But yeah. And when he was in Chicago, you know, um, it was a good concert. I was happy to see him here. I was happy to see the guys, and we did what we had to do on the stage. A guy named Bill Tilford was there. You know Bill Tilford? Yeah, I think he saw it. Yeah, it was a good
I believe he saw that, and you can probably find photos of that concert on the Tima.com website in the photo
Oh,
galleries.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, this tour that's happening next year, if everything comes together,
Yeah.
and obviously a lot of balls are in the air in between COVID and the current situation generally.
Mhm.
But if everything comes together, I understand that won't just be Manolito on one of the tours. Can you tell us what you hope will happen?
Oh, sure. I'd be more than happy to let him in on some secrets. So the deal is that the management company, the manager who I now work with directly for Manolito, also manages Pupi, y Lo Que Son Son. And they're going to be doing tours together next year. That's our plan. We're going to hit Chicago in June and July, probably right directly after Memorial Day weekend, I believe. And then in December, the winter time of that year, we're going to do a very, very, very special concert. And as we're able to disseminate more information, we would. But all I'm going to tell you is it's time for the knockout. And if you are a fan and a lover of Timba like me, you definitely would understand what I mean by the knockout.
Sure. In addition to that, you've played with some other interesting groups, again in the center of the island, which is a little different because most of us going down there for whatever reason usually end up on one end or the other, in Havana, in Santiago. You've been other places like Camagüey, Holguin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to be doing a radio segment with Holguin's official historian about the music scene there because Holguin's
Mm.
been an undersung cultural center outside of Cuba.
Oh,
So
yeah.
tell us a little about your experiences there.
Mutual colleague. His name is Yankee Cespedes. He runs YCT Productions in Humboldt Park. Well, he's originally a native of Hogan. And I've been playing in his band for many years. And the guy's a genius. The guy, he's a wizard. I mean, this dude plays trumpet, trombone, piano, bass, guitar, and percussion. He does videos with him playing everything, which I think is that's just amazing. So in 2017, he made the decision that he wanted to, go to Cuba and bring a band with him. So he called me, asked me if I want to go. I said, yeah. And So I sent my bio and a copy of my passport to La Casa de Iberoamérica, which is the governing organization for La Fiesta Cultural Iberoamericana, the annual cultural arts festival of Holguin, which honors Hispanics throughout the entire diaspora. So turns out that one of Yankees' relatives is the international director of public relations, so she deals with all the international people that they want to bring, and so they looked over my bio and did some research on me. And next thing you know, when I get there, they got a class full of 200 kids listening to me giving them a lecture and a master class. And next thing you know, I'm playing with all the kids in the band, and that was amazing to me because those kids really, really study. They are sponges, and they have such a dynamic and eclectic appreciation for music. So that's what led me into that thing, and almost 5 years later, I'm still doing it.
And one of your encounters was with what is Cuba's longest functioning band.
Yeah, pretty much. So Yandris tells me, he says, "Hey, Leo, you need to check your family history." I said, "Well, what's he talking about?" He says, "Yeah, I got a friend, and he said, I have a friend in Holguin. His name is Gaston Allen, and he plays trumpet like you." And I say, "Oh, yeah, who is this guy?" I say, "Allens are running around." "Yeah, I might have to check this out." So I checked him out. By the time I got there and he heard me play, he says, "You remind me of my son." Well, his son's name is Quincy. And why is that so important? Because a lot of people call me Leon Q, and the Q stands for Quincy, my middle name. And he got a son that plays trumpet. And the funny thing is that his son is the trumpet player for Aloe Black. Like, this dude is doing this thing, and I'm like, "You got a son?" And then he's got a daughter. He's got a daughter named Kenya, and that's funny because my oldest sister's name is Kenya. I said, it's got to be something special with this connection here. So we've been like cool ever since. And when I met him, he heard me play and he liked it so much that he offered me a chance to do some work with Aviles, and that band is smoking.
Hermanos Aviles was founded in 1882. It's passed through
Wow.
it's passed through multiple generations.
Hmm.
So when I said Cuba's longest continuous band, I meant that literally. It's officially recognized as that. So,
That's great. I mean, that's such an historic
yeah.
moment. That's a historic thing happening.
Now, there has actually been a United Nations sponsored project to help Cuba develop more music cities because so much of the culture and nightlife, if you visit as a foreigner, say, has been concentrated in Havana and Santiago. Now, cities like Holguin have an increasing number of festivals. How would you describe the nightlife?
The nightlife in Holguin, it's vibrant. It's really cool. Um, Vibrant, but vibrant like the waves that come out of the lake right before high tide. It's spicy, but it's very smooth. The nightlife in Holguin, you can go to one spot and there'll be a bunch of dancing, and you go to another spot, there'll be there could be poetry, and then a lot of music bands are playing everywhere. But also, what I like about Holguin's nightlife is they have fun in the parks. And one of the nicknames of Holguin is La Ciudad de los Parques because they have parks everywhere and everyone hangs out in the park, even during after hours. Everyone hangs out in the park. I know there's been some times where it's late at night, it's like 1, 2 in the morning, and I want to practice. I just literally go to a park in Holguin, sit my trumpet down, and practice. And then the next morning they'll come out, they're like, "Oh, I heard you practicing." "Oh, you sound." I was like, I was only practicing, but it sounded good. It's all that stuff. So, it's very, very, very lively, the nightlife in whole game. And those bands are playing their butts off. They got some good musicians in whole game.
Yeah, in past conversations, you've mentioned a few other groups. Who else have you been playing with?
Well, I've been playing with SOS, SOS band, which is a really more of a modern style team band. Just a little bit more modern than Aviles, but everybody knows Aviles. Everybody knows SOS. I actually did some gigs with Carpacho, the Colombian bass player who lives here uh, in Holguin, along with Yendris. So that's been pretty much that. Also, I've played with the Municipal Orchestra of Mayari,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a big honor. So the first time I go to Mayari is for the Festival de Son. And, if anyone knows about Mayari, knows about the infamous Chan Chan. It's Chan Chan Town people. So, boom, we're there. And as soon as I arrive, somebody from the TV station, another guy from the radio station you have to come with me, please. I was like, well, where am I going? Oh, the Municipal Orchestra of Holguin is set right on the side of the road. And it's like a 35-piece orchestra. They set on the side of the road. Okay, watching my bus come in, I get off the bus and they give me a 4-song concert in my honor just for coming to their town. And then that turned into a workshop where I actually got a chance to do some work with them and also play a lot of their original music. But I got a chance to work with them quite a bit in fusing Cuban rhythms with the music of New Orleans, the music from the second line and the Bamboleo, which has such a dynamic relationship. And when you put the two together and you do the right thing, you got something special happening.
Yeah, another part of the Cuba-New Orleans connection down there has been Cimafunk, who's been working with groups like the Soul Rebels. And if memory serves, when I saw Cimafunk in Chicago at the Old Town School, there was a Chicago trumpeter that took the stage on that as well.
Yeah, well, I wonder who that guy is.
Yeah, I believe that would have been a Mr. Allen as well.
Yeah, well, if you see him, tell him I'm looking for him. I got him on my list. I definitely have him here. I'm
Do you
coming to
have?
get that guy.
I know you have things going with Manolito and some other Team
Mm-hmm.
Barrows. Uh, in a pre-COVID universe, Cimafunk would have been here in September, and
They
of
would have
course,
been here the day before Labor Day, September 6th.
yeah. Would you have been part of that if he had been up
Yes.
here? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So hopefully you'll get a shot at doing that sometime in the future when he's back. So.
Yeah, I'm working with Eric and I'm working with Mario and Raul and some of the cats, in Cimafunk because I'd actually like to go down and produce a project with Cimafunk, actually do a song with them. So that's in the works.
Yeah, keep me in the loop if that goes down.
Yeah. And then the same with Manolito and the same with Poopy because we've been in talks, about some original music getting generated. So
Okay.
I'm very excited for what the future holds, at least to see it.
Leon, thanks. This has been interesting. Is there anything you think I forgot to ask you that you want to share before we jump off?
Um, Stay tuned. Manolito and Poopy, U.S. Tour 2021. That's all.
We'll definitely be watching. Thanks again, man.
Thank you
And
for calling me.